All right, everybody ready?
Yep.
Let it rip.
The meeting will come to order. For public information, a copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the meeting room, in case anyone needs to see that on the east wall. We'll have roll call.
Harris,
Here.
Knapper,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Reisig,
Here.
Blue.
Here.
We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, let me go through my announcements this evening, as I normally would. I want to remind all that this meeting is being recorded, not live, but it's being recorded to be broadcast at a later date. Remember that whoever wants to speak this evening, you're going to need to be sure and come forward when you're recognized, and then come forward to be able to speak into the microphone. We need everyone to speak clearly into the microphone. When you come forward, we're going to have a sign-up sheet at the front where if you could sign your name, it will help the clerk make sure that she knows who's here for the record. Also, we would like for you to say your name for the record, which will be part of the recording, which would be helpful. Keep in mind that there's no swearing, there's no inappropriate language, and I trust that we won't have any of that this evening. Beyond that, I want to remind commissioners we need to speak clearly into our microphones. We've tried to do some adjustments on the microphones and some of the humming noises. I think we got some of that fixed maybe tonight, and so that'll be helpful, hopefully, for everyone. Somewhere along the line, we generally end up taking about an 8-minute break, depending on how long certain agenda items go. So I want you to be aware of that we may take a 8-minute recess. Also want to mention that we do have, some of you are not familiar with Jason Ocean. He's here tonight from the Kelly Law Office, and he does represent the county in our civic affairs, and he's here tonight representing the county. So anyway, I wanted to mention that. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda and consider any modifications. I've already been asked this evening to consider to move the item of public comments up to the front of the agenda. We only have 3 items tonight on our normal agenda, but there's talk of moving up the public comment portion because I'm assuming that many of you are here tonight for that purpose, to possibly comment. And so in an effort, we're not quite ready.
I have a question.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, we're talking about moving that item forward on the agenda. And do you have a question about moving it forward?
I do.
All right, come forward, give us your name.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Betts Marquez. There are people who are planning to be here to make public comments who are aware that public comments traditionally come at the end of a meeting.
Okay.
And since it is a short meeting, at least in terms of the number of agenda items, I would encourage you to consider that all people want to be heard tonight and to keep the public comments at the end of the meeting so that all people could be heard.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the intent of the thought was to assist you folks, but if that's not the thought, then it's fine with us to put it at the end, as far as I'm concerned, if that's the way that you want to do it. So,
The others have ideas, but
all right.
that's my thought.
okay. So I'd ask the commissioners, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as printed.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses.
All right, the motion's carried. So we'll plan on going with the agenda as it's written. The next item on the agenda here is one of our normal items that we talk about. The board reserves the right to enter into a closed session if deemed necessary. We don't have an executive session planned for this evening, but it's always a possibility depending on how commissioners and/or our attorney feel. So just want you to be aware of that. We'll go on to the general agenda items. The first item is to discuss and consider approval of Scotts Bluff County Detention Center medical request for proposal. Sheriff? Thank you.
Gentlemen, the last time we were here, we talked about a request for proposals for health care at the jail, for nursing services at the jail. And you asked us to get that vetted and reviewed by attorneys. And so I found out that we actually, as part of our contract with NERMA, so we sent that to NERMA, and they sent it back with a number of recommendations, all of which we agreed with. Just made sense. And it made sense to our attorneys from a legal standpoint. And then they also suggested that we send that to our county attorney for review. And Mr. Eubanks was able to review it today. And he just had one more suggestion for some wording. And so it goes into there's a non-compete clause in there. And what I've given you is exactly what he sent me, and he would like that language in there. And I'll just, there's so many people here, it's short, I'll just read it. The proposer agrees that it will not employ in any manner a current county employee for a minimum period of 1 year from the expiration or termination of the proposal without the prior express written consent of the county. The county has a legitimate business interest in retaining employees after investing significant time and resources in a specialized area, which necessitates the minimum 1 year non-compete clause. And so what I would ask you to do is we can easily insert that language into that contract at the appropriate place, and I'd ask you to approve that RFP. And that we made some other changes just to the timing, because we needed to do it because we're 2 weeks later than we thought it would be, so we just made changes to the timing of when the proposal hits, and that's it.
Okay. So I would ask, is there anyone here this evening that would like to comment on this item? All right, seeing none.
I'd vote for approval of the detention center medical RFP with the changes. The addendum that the sheriff brought forward.
And I should say that we have reviewed this at our last meeting, and so we're pretty familiar with it up here.
What Bonnie gave me last week has the changes, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
what was in your packet had the changes since you guys saw it on the 17th?
Right. So it'll just be this sheet that he
Yeah,
gave us
just that
tonight.
sheet. Yeah, yeah, you guys have the changed contract. That was
Okay.
submitted to you.
Right. The only
Just-
thing that'll be added now is this sheet that you
Right,
gave us
that's it.
tonight.
That's the last thing, that's the last suggestion from our county attorney.
Okay.
I think we need to call this addendum number 1 if we're gonna do that, to include it, so make sure it gets put in there. All right?
And that would make the record clear.
Okay.
Okay,
So this identified as amendment number
Oh.
1.
I have a question.
I will include that in my motion.
Sheriff, on the 17th, there were changes made since then, correct?
yes,
And then Bonnie sent this to us.
right.
What you reviewed, I want to make it clear, what you reviewed on the 17th is not this.
It had some
This
changes.
includes the changes from NERMA, and this is the change from Dave.
Right.
correct.
And
Okay.
I'm understanding you've explained that to us, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion,
I'll second that motion.
okay, and it includes that, what we're calling amendment 1, or that
Addendum.
item,
Addendum
addendum
one,
1,
yeah.
so. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Sheriff, do you know all the pages they need to sign? What pages they need to sign?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it
And we can do it
before-
later if we need to.
I think it's probably just at the end.
Okay.
But we'll want to insert this language at the appropriate place.
Okay.
Okay,
And then I can
And then
sign
we're
it
still
later.
okay.
and then we're good with everything else.
Thank
I
you.
think it was just
Okay.
one signature, if I remember.
Yeah.
You have 5 yeses.
All right, the motion's carried.
Okay,
That'll take care of that item. Thanks so much.
thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, we'll go to the next item, which is discuss the budget process for 25-26 due September 30th. Lisa? Yep.
Okay, I sent a copy of an email that I send to our officials every year, asking them for their annual budget or their budget proposal for our budget process. This typically goes out end of April, and I start getting them back in May, and I submit and put them into our forms. Last year, it was brought up that maybe we could bump this all back up and start getting the information sooner rather than wait, because May turned into June, and I got some in July, which was just not okay. So, and I think you want to start the budget process maybe in a different way, in a different manner, start talking budget things in May. So that's why I'm here. What are you wanting to see different this year? I've given you a copy of the letter. I'm sorry, I don't have it on the board.
I think we all have that, and we received it in our packet. And I can mention a couple things, because I think I'm the one that instigated this discussion somewhat.
Okay.
So, one of my concerns, of course, has been that we come to budget time, along the way, it appears to me that the people, the elected officials and the department heads have prepared their budget based upon us asking them to prepare their budget. And we haven't given, in my opinion, any guidance as to what our expectations are when they finish at the end. Whether we're assuming we're going to get a 2% increase or a 3 or 5 or 10% increase. We've simply left it wide open the way I see it. And I'm suggesting that we give a percentage increase that would be the target of their budgets. And,
Of their overall budget, or are you talking wages?
I'm talking about their overall budget. And I'm talking that to end up, being, inclusive of the wages.
Less the
Now-
COLA.
And so we would need to decide that exactly, but the, and this, we had our NACO meeting this past Wednesday, I believe it was, in Bridgeport. And, Candace Meredith was there, and she was filling us in on some new things, some cap things that are gonna be coming, and you're aware of that. And where we are going to need to be with some of those things. And anyway, then a general discussion ensued, and she asked several questions of the people there. And one of the questions was, I believe, if any expectations were given to their staff prior to the instructions going out. And Bridgeport, or Morrow County, I should say, spoke right up and said 2.5%. It's 2.5%. It's been 2.5% for the last at least 10 years, I thought I heard, and maybe longer. But 2.5%, we expect them to come in with numbers that are at 2.5%, no more than 2.5% above what they had the previous year. And I said, what about the increase in for employees and that type of thing? And he said it would include that, is what he said. And I was primarily talking to Jeff Metz, but I had Jason or Josh Schmidt sitting beside me, and then Susan Batterman. So they have 3 commissioners. They were all there when this discussion was going on. But they said that 2.5% would include whatever increases to personnel. And that, I said, well, what if it's more than that? Well, he said, if it's more than that on one line item, then the other line items end up being less. And with a 2.5% is where they come in at. And then he said, doesn't mean that some items don't get adjusted. Some of them do. Some of them get, if they have a compelling reason to be at something different than that, we'll listen to what they have to say. But that's one of the things that I feel that we should be doing, is giving a projection as to where we want to be at the end, rather than waiting to the end and then saying, okay,
Then we gotta
now we
repush.
need to cut $10 million out of this budget.
I know
And that doesn't work very good. And I just think that needs to be done by us declaring that percentage up front. That's one item, and then I'll just go right on into my second one, and that is, according to one of the emails that we received from you, you have not been receiving budgets back from each department in a timely manner. And I think we need to help be a part of that. And if they don't get submitted in a timely manner, that we'll set it for them based on a flat rate, and it is what it will be. We actually ended up doing that last year on a couple that never did get us some numbers, if I remember right. But I think there ought to be some consequences to those that won't submit their information on a timely basis. And we can easily set a number and say, this would be the maximum allowable. Maybe it's 2.5%. I don't even know that 2.5% works in that first item the first line that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But something like that, and whatever that is, then we could say that, hey, if you don't get your budget turned in, here's what's going to happen. And I think we ought to declare that up front, early on in the process.
That's
What
helpful.
is a good date for you, Lisa, to have everything turned in?
It depends on when you want to have your budget discussions.
I know
So-
in years past, that happened with a previous management account. And it only happened 1 year. I mean, after that, it was,
Oh, as far as
as
if you
getting your
don't turn
budget,
it in, I'll do it
if
for
you
your-
didn't get
do
it
it for you.
in on this particular date, we
Mhm.
set your budget for you.
Right.
It didn't go over very well, but guess what? The next year, we got the budget in when it was supposed to.
That's what we need to do.
Uh,
That would be very helpful.
So again, what would be a date, a good date, a target date that you're looking at?
Again, it's gonna be when you wanted to start the discussions, and
Right.
I have to turn a packet over to you the end of July. But I think you wanted to start the discussions sooner, not later.
And we don't have to have that exact date right now, but you need to think about that. And again, when will you start the process? And there might be some
Be good to
deadlines
have.
along the way. And then with a final deadline of, if you
Right.
don't have one, then the commissioners will set it for you.
Mark, when, are we gonna have a meeting prior to pick that number that we're looking at?
I'm assuming that Lisa will bring back some recommendations to us.
I understand there's a NACO budget meeting May 15th
May 15th.
in Ogallala, so I'll
Right.
know a lot more then, I hope.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
after that,
Yeah.
right. And I would, again, on both of those items, I would just say, we don't need that answer now. Those are just some recommendations that I have. And then I'll
Very helpful.
open it up to any other commissioners that want to say anything.
Well, 2 weeks ago, I mentioned I thought we've always had a pretty productive budget session when we state our goals prior to receiving proposed budgets from the offices. So I made that comment 2 weeks ago with the hopes that we would all think about what those goals might be, voice those goals tonight, and that would provide the department heads with some guidance. I don't know if you, Mark, if your percentage increase was kind of a hard and fast suggestion, or is that your goal, or where would you like to be there?
No, that's not a hard and fast. I was bringing a suggestion with just a number that was used, and I got that number from Morrill County. Now, it was not something that I felt was going to be in concrete tonight.
Okay.
Right.
I
So-
thought that we needed to give a little bit of time for Lisa to think about that number, and then I suspect we might hear a little bit from our elected and appointed officials that might have some input on that. But ultimately, I believe that early on in the process, from here forward, that Lisa needs to specifically bring that item to us, and that we can come up with a percentage that we're willing to accept. And that they need to build budgets around that. But that 2.5 is not something that I brought tonight to adopt tonight.
Well, I think last year we achieved 2 of the 3 goals that I had set out. I would like to, the first goal that I suggested last year was to give a 3.5% raise to all employees. The second goal was to lower the levy, and the third goal was to stay off of the pink postcard. We achieved the raises, we achieved the lowering of the levy, but we did not stay off the pink postcard. It's unknown at this point if the pink postcard will exist this year.
Oh, serious?
So, but I would still, for the time being, I would stick with those 3 goals as my top 3 goals for our budget session. And if anyone else had any input on what their goals might be, I think this is the time to really state those.
Others?
Well, I don't think we ought to put out an increase yet. We don't know what this economy is even gonna do, if it's gonna go up, if it's gonna go down. We generally give raises based on increase, that, to the economy, and I don't know where the economy's at this year. It's upside down, so. I'm not in favor of putting a raise out until after we've looked at all the numbers.
We don't know what our revenues are gonna be.
That's it. We gotta
There's
see
a lot
the
of
revenue.
unknowns out
We
there.
can't offer a bonus.
It's nice to set and say 2%, 3, 5, whatever. Have no idea what the
This
revenue is going to be.
This is an odd year, and I'd like
Yeah,
to set that off to the side till the end.
So when we get some numbers to work with, and that's when you start looking at where you're gonna be. It's nice to throw something out and set that as a goal, but that could go one way or another depending on.
I hate to set expectations and then jerk them out
Sorry.
from under someone.
No, I understand, but we know that the problem is we don't get those numbers until a couple weeks before the budget is due.
Right.
A couple weeks before we start this discussion.
So you can set some preliminary where it's been before and.
Goals.
So I would only comment that, the last year you mentioned the 3.5. I thought before the whole thing was said and done, that maybe we had regretted the 3.5%. I thought that we had felt that maybe we overextended some things, and as long as I understand that to be some kind of a recommendation, and I'm not even agreeing with 3.5 yet, but I do think coming up with some kind of a COLA and that we can build things on would be good. And then the pink postcard, staying off the pink postcard, I agreed with that, and of course we didn't achieve that, but we were close, but we didn't. And
We still lowered the levy.
we did lower the levy. And just for information, I had someone this past week bring me a sheet that showed the levy amounts for, it happened to be Box Butte County, and say, look at this is a lot lower than what ours is. And then when I started to look at it, it wasn't a lot lower. I think their county was at a mill levy of 33, ours was 34. The school system, of course, ours just went down substantially, which helped a lot, but it was, I think, around 95 cents total when you included the bond stuff in, and ours wasn't far off of that. They did not have ours has certainly an airport authority that is taxed, that theirs did not have in Box Butte County. But several of the other things, the Ag Society and other things, were very, very similar. And the overall, again, our school has helped substantially in Scotts Bluff. Our mill levy has went down substantially compared to the year before. And most of you are seeing that already on the taxes that you're getting ready to pay. And
But we'll never be comparable to Box Butte County, ever.
And because of
So
the
that doesn't-
railroad,
Because of a detention center, more officers in our sheriff, because we have a comm center we have to fully fund.
I know
We
there's a lot
are not
of
the same.
reasons, okay?
I guess-
And they pay us to do comm center stuff,
For a while,
So,
you know,
so.
that's ending.
Right, but I am certainly, I'm willing to listen to rationale in those areas. But anyway, the fact was we weren't all that far off of what they were charging, so. But anyway, I agree kind of with the concept of what Charlie's saying. I don't agree with the 3.5%. Again, I think we come to regret that last year. And I didn't come prepared tonight. Maybe I should have, but I didn't come prepared tonight to give those percentages. I think, and some of these people are hearing that for the first time.
Sure.
And I think we need to have a little time to consider that and
I guess I
bring our
want to know,
thoughts.
I'm sorry, Mark, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm done.
I want to know more of, do you want to start sooner? Do you want to talk to the big departments? I know Kurt Richter could give you a budget today,
Mhm.
and you could talk to him about what he's proposing. I think Troy's been working on his, and so is Rhodes. That's your biggies. process.
I want you sitting for when I tell you that I'm ready for you too. I'm ready with my numbers for you too.
Oh,
I wanted you to be
she's ready.
sitting. When I,
Thank you, Kelly. I mean, what we ran into last year was you had a very long property protest season in July, then turn around and go into the long meetings in August, and we're already into our budget year. Do you want to start diving into stuff in May and June?
Right.
Does that make sense?
perfect to me.
Thank you.
Well, I think there's a possibility of that, but in my opinion, we certainly need to
Figure out.
have a
goals
meeting
first.
on those, at least those percentages that we talked about, if the other commissioners are in agreement with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
That's
I think
what we need to do.
I think you're right, and I like the idea of starting earlier, whatever you're comfortable with, Lisa, on trying to get stuff put together. I'm also in full agreement of setting a date. This is when your budget's going to be here. If it's not here, then we'll go ahead and do it for
We'll
you.
just
Take
fix
care
it
of
for you.
Right.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
I think that's everybody's responsibility is to be prepared to get their budget in on time. I know we had a lot of issues with that last year. And you can't work, you can't get your stuff done until you know what people are asking for, so it's
Pretty
not
much.
fair. It's not fair to you or us.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Is that all you wanted to discuss?
Is there anything else?
So I'm just gonna make the comment, it sounds like we haven't made much progress. We set this workshop to have a budget discussion, and all we've decided is that we're gonna talk about the budget sooner on the calendar than we did last year. And we've said that each of the last 6 years I've been here. So when I mentioned 2 weeks ago that we should come with goals in mind, and we don't get to that, it's a little frustrating. I'm just saying I'm afraid we're gonna get to the same place we were last year and the year before and the year before and the year before that. So if this becomes an agenda item again in the near future, we have to do more than talk about starting sooner. We have to set goals. We have to have budgets from department heads. We haven't done anything more tonight than we did 2 weeks ago when we asked for this agenda item to be put on the agenda. That's my concern.
I would just say this, and that's that based upon a typical year, Lisa, we certainly need from you the timeline. You've been using a timeline. And if that needs to be a little more firm and a little more direct, and again, regardless of if we go over when we're going to review those because of property tax protest or whatever, I think you need to set the timeline the way you think it most likely is going to go. And give us a timeline and show us what that is. And I think by you doing that, that has accomplished something tonight, not knowing what those dates are, but if you'll give us that, I believe along with that, it could include the item of a one sentence with a blank talking about what we should anticipate for COLAs, and with some serious consideration that we could, the commissioners could come up with a number maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks that we could have this item on the agenda again. And if we could have a 1 or 2 sentence statement with your budgets should be based upon a X amount increase and built around that. And we can come up with that number for you. Okay? I don't think we can tonight. Again, some people are hearing this for the first time. And then the issue of consequences for being late.
Okay.
Those are what I've heard tonight. And I think at that time we can confirm the goals. I love the goal avoiding the pink postcard, and I love that, and then we can go from there. But it is true, I think we're not ready to give those numbers tonight. I agree with Charlie on that.
Yeah, I agree.
But I, again, just this week, heard some new information that I thought was helpful and useful, and bringing it to the meeting tonight.
So there is one person here tonight who has some suggestions on how we can lower our budget.
Okay.
Nick Lease is here. He's been requesting to speak to us.
Okay.
So I asked him
Right.
to be here. He's talked to a couple other commissioners.
Come on up, Nick, and I will tell you that when Nick is finished, we'll certainly open the floor tonight for this subject. If there's anyone else that wants to speak on this item, we can take a look at it.
Well, thank you guys for having me. My name's Nick Lease. I'm with Next Gen Benefit Solutions. And to start with a little bit of humor, we've all been watching Doge. And really, that's my suggestion to the county when it comes to your health plan, is that you really need to get somebody that can act as the role of Doge. And so I've put together a little bit of a packet for you just to give you some things that I'm seeing. Now, I want to make a disclaimer at the very beginning that I'm taking stuff off of your guys' website. I'm taking it out of your budgets. So, you know, we're not through this fiscal year. I can't estimate your claims any closer than what you've paid over the last 8 months. I have to forward those claims across, but I think they're pretty accurate. About $250,000 a month is going towards claims funding. About $71,000 is going towards administrative services and stop-loss agreements with Regional Care Incorporated. So overall, the county spends about $3.7 million a year on health insurance. 2.9 million of that is estimated to be claim spending, which is about 76%. From my estimation, that's a pretty good place to be. Admin cost, you're looking at about 23% or $876,000. And really what my encouragement is going back to the Doge comment, which is encouraging the county to put out an RFP to have a consultant come in and help you guys make well-educated decisions as far as it comes to your health plan. When we're looking at your spending, one of the first questions that I always like to ask people is, do you know how much for each and every claim you are paying of that $2.9 million? And the answer is almost unequivocally, people can't answer that question because people don't know. And that's no fault of their own. The system is designed to be opaque in nature so that people don't know what the cost of healthcare is, because if they knew what the cost was, they would certainly be frustrated. So what I did is, and I want to make a couple of assumptions here. One is I used the price transparency tool of the hospital. Now this is an estimate. From my experience, the estimate only goes up. It very rarely goes down. So I think this is a good baseline of what you're paying for different claims. I also want to point out that I did not disclose who my particular vendors are. I'll come and tell you guys a lot in public meeting, but there's certain cards I have to keep in my pocket. So a gallbladder removal. If you do that at the local hospital under your guys' current plan, you guys are with Cigna, but it is my guess that they reprice those claims under their own proprietary network between RCI and the hospital. That gallbladder removal RCI reimbursement is $23,000. If you use one of our preferred centers, our price is $6,800. To give you reference, that $23,000 is 418% of Medicare. Groin hernia using a laparoscope, RCI reimbursement, $24,870, 477% of Medicare. Our price is $8,673, 166% of Medicare. A hysterectomy with RCI, $27,591, 634% of Medicare. Our price is $12,500, 287% of Medicare. And finally, a cervical spine fusion, which would be under an RCI reimbursement, $121,473. Our price would be $24,452. So if you had 4 employees, each have one of these claims, and you went to our preferred center of excellence, the county saves $144,000 in claims funding off of 4 claims. And so what my suggestion to you is that when we're talking about Medicare, we look at Medicare as our reference. That's what the government's paying. So what should we pay as average citizens? What should we pay as the county? And I would argue that we shouldn't have to pay for 3, 4, maybe even 6 Medicare recipients with every time one of our employees engages with healthcare. So when it comes down to a self-funded plan, the thing that you guys really need to be watching for is what are we paying for healthcare? And if you ask me, paying 4 to 6 times what Medicare's paying seems a little bit egregious. We all need to have a profit margin. Part of what I put in this packet for you guys is what I believe is a fair profit margin based on some data that was compiled together on the hospital. But really, the big reason that I think you guys need to at least consider some type of RFP process, and again, I'm not suggesting change RCI, I'm not saying change the Cigna network, I'm not saying change your PBM. I'm saying hire an expert to come in and help give you guys sound guidance on how you can reduce your cost, because I believe conservatively, right now, you're spending about 25% too much on your claims. I further believe that if you could restructure your contracts, your payer contracts, that generate about $725,000 in savings. Again, very conservative, 25%. That would allow you to renegotiate your stop loss, your reinsurance contracts. I think you'd see another probably 25%, estimating that about $213,000 in fixed cost savings. All in and done, without having a massive impact to employees. A lot of this is just background stuff. Employees don't know whether we're paying $30,000 for a service or 20. That doesn't even catch their radar. So a lot of this is not impacting employees, and I think you can conservatively save about $944,000 off of just taking action. And then kind of to round this out, this obviously saves employees. Employees pay a portion of the premiums for your health insurance. So every dollar we reduce it is $1. They share in a percentage of that dollar, so they get something back. We're estimating about $1,000 returned to every employee in aggregate, just based off the data that we have. And then it's also obviously good for taxpayers when we're reducing that, making these budgets, 3.5% wage increases, 2.5% budget increases. We're starting to make some of those things happen when we take action in this area. And the last and final point is that depending on the willingness of your employees to work with us, and I say us, I apologize, I'm going to step that back. If you guys do an RFP and you hire a consultant and your employees are willing to work with that consultant, I am 100% confident if they're willing to work with you guys, we can eliminate their out-of-pocket costs. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer some questions if you had some.
So when you mention a preferred center of care or whatever you said about that, what would that mean that our employees would be seeking health care out of town?
Potentially.
Potentially,
And that's where I say we could waive the out-of-pockets. I want people to be able to support healthcare here locally, but the fact is a lot of people are going south for healthcare anyways. So if somebody wants to go to Colorado for healthcare, they've got a million different options to go pick from. Use one of ours that we have a direct contract where we can lower those costs substantially. Again, we're talking $100,000 savings on one spine procedure. So what I would suggest is that you design your plan in a way that basically you have a tier 1 benefit. If the employees choose to engage with the program, I like to call it the Highway 2 of Nebraska. It's really the best way to see Nebraska. This is the best way to experience healthcare because we're designing tier 1 with 2 objectives in mind. Number 1 is we're always going to cost. Both of the facilities, and I'm happy to share the information with you guys privately on what those facilities are, highly rated. One of them is the only spine center of excellence in the state of Colorado. So we're looking at quality first. We want to get people to the best of the best The second thing is we want to do it at the most fair cost. Now, healthcare is one of those things that has a really interesting thing. You know, when you buy a Cadillac, you know you're paying premium dollars, but you're getting premium features. Healthcare is the only thing that I know of that we buy that the higher the quality of it, statistically, the lower the cost. And a lot of this comes down to just market efficiencies. The guy that's doing knee replacements at one of our clinics hasn't done anything but knee replacements since he got out of residency. So he's doing 3 knee surgeries to a general surgeon's 1. So he's doing a lot more volume. He doesn't have to charge the same amount of price to make as much or more money.
So it seems to me that possibly you've said enough tonight to where we need to at least consider the thought of whether or not we would be going for RFPs on our health insurance. I don't know exactly what our agreement says right now with RCI and when that actually comes up for renewal, and there's a lot of thoughts and questions with that. But it may have at least, your information may have at least prompted us to think about whether or not it's time to look at another option. And
Can I
so
make a
where are you
clarification?
from, Nick?
I'm from Scotts. Well, grew up in Banner County. Don't judge
Okay.
me.
Okay.
But I've been here for the last decade. Let me make a clarification.
Mhm.
Again, I'm not suggesting that you guys go shop your administrator. I'm not saying you should be shopping your stop loss anyways. RCI should be handling that. Not saying you should shop networks. I'm suggesting that you get somebody that can help be the Doge of your plan. That is an independent third party that doesn't work for the hospital, that doesn't work for RCI, that can come in and give you unbiased advice. Okay, I'm just going to be candid, and this is nothing against them. They're not going to tell you that you're paying 400% to 600% of Medicare, because I can tell you just changing networks. I can tell you the network that it is. You'll save 25% over what you're saving today.
Well, maybe my comment should be not so much request for proposals on our health insurance plan, but what you're suggesting doing, that we can take a look at that. Obviously, we're not gonna make that decision tonight. And, but I think you've planted enough seeds that there may be some interest in that as we look forward to the process.
We have an active, pretty well-informed insurance committee where a lot of this stuff gets filtered through before it comes up to here. And I would suggest that we set up a time for you to meet with that insurance committee. Many of them have been on a long time. They're very well aware of what's going on. There would be some information. That'd be my suggestion, start with them.
Okay.
And you set that up with Lisa. She's the contact person for that health insurance committee. And then take it from there.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Any other questions?
You got $1,000 savings. Was it in lower deductible costs, or how are you looking at saving this?
From $1,000
$1,000
for the
savings
employees?
per employee.
For employees?
Where are you arriving with this?
Well, let me just reference that. So roughly, and again, I don't have you guys' intimate data,
No,
so I'm working off of generalities out of your budgets. I'm showing that the county pays about 73% of the plan cost. Employees are about 27%. So I'm factoring about 27% of that $944,000 that I referenced is going to be employee savings. So that would come back to them in the form of lower premium costs out of their paychecks, about $100 a month.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
So you mentioned some, maybe not changing insurance providers, but working with your group as a consultant to get them to that lower cost healthcare.
Again, I'm just coming out here and I'm kind of giving probably too much of my playbook, but I don't care. I'm going to help people.
Yeah.
You guys are the payers. The RCI proprietary network is a network that is negotiated between RCI and the hospital. Well, they just facilitate the transaction. You guys are the payers. So you have every right to go to the hospital and say, we're not going to pay 600% of Medicare. We're going to pay 400%. or 300%, or 200%. Again, I kind of detailed out where I think a fair place is to have those negotiated points. But at the end of the day, purchasing healthcare should be like purchasing, new pickups for the county. You go down to the dealer, you negotiate a price, and you can easily establish value by this is what we're getting for this price. Again, that's been obscured or really opaque in healthcare. But again, you guys are the payer, so no, you don't have to change. Maybe it's simply just having somebody that's going to drive that conversation to say, here's the deal. Our employees, they can't afford it. We can't afford it. We have to come to a common ground as far as what we can reimburse for healthcare. Hard to tell where those conversations go, but I think they need to start.
Yeah, and I apologize, and you're with what company? I didn't,
I own Next Gen Benefit Solutions.
Next Generation? Gen, what, okay. Okay. And how long have you been in business?
I've been in the industry for 7 years. Owned my own business for 2.
Okay,
So
okay. Again, I would highly suggest, and I'm sure the insurance committee would love to hear what you're doing. And kind of take it from there and see what happens there.
perfect. Sounds like I'm on their
Yeah.
radar.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. If you have any further questions.
Keep in touch with Lisa, and that's.
Yes, will do. My card is in those books. I did stick it in the chapter about what you should look for in a benefits consultant. But thank you guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else here this evening that wants to comment on this item? Come on up.
My name is Mitch Wagers. I appreciate being able to speak. While I commend the proposal, I am on the opposite end of that. Although I'm not on the opposite end of an RFP process, I am on the opposite end of the way it's gone about. But that's not about his proposal. So in the budget process, I kept hearing from all of you commissioners, except for a couple, that we should just keep increasing the budget some arbitrary number. And I know that number has not been decided upon, and I respect that. But I don't think that we should be looking at always increasing our budget arbitrarily, or the budget. I can speak for myself that in private business and otherwise, if I didn't meet a deadline, I was reprimanded, not rewarded. So I think that should be something that should be on the radar, that if people can't get their budgets in on time, you don't just automatically increase their budget. I think that's a bad thing to do. So I'm going to leave it there. On the healthcare side, I don't believe that paying any percentage over and above what Medicare pays is a good comparison. So I don't think that comparing Medicare payments to private health insurance is the same. So, but I am on the other side because I've been to experts and those things did not work out. So just food for thought. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question, about increasing budgets. And I know Mr. Harris and I are usually on the opposite side of the fence of all this.
And I apologize being nervous.
But that's okay. That's all right. One of the philosophies that I have is that, and some of the calls that we get from taxpayers is, I'm tired of paying taxes. I'm tired of the taxes keep going up and up and up and up. One of the thoughts with that is that if you're going to pay more for something, you should receive something for that, correct? If you're going to pay more in taxes, we ought to make sure that all the roads are done correctly. We ought to make sure that when you have a 911 call, that somebody answers it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I can speak directly.
and I'm not advocating raising the budget every year either, but we also have an obligation to the taxpayers that if they're going to pay what I hear a lot of money in taxes, I pay taxes also. I want to make sure I'm getting my money's worth. I want to make sure that these things are done and they're done correctly, that the jail is running properly, that the communications is running properly, the roads department is, has the money they need to do the things that they need to do. With increase of everything else, if you don't do something to keep up with whatever is going on, something has to suffer. There's a road that doesn't get done. There's a whatever. So my concern is that we take care of the people that are paying the bill. You need to have your money's worth. You need to be able to say, Yeah, my taxes went up, but you know what? The roads are really, I'm liking what's going on with the roads, or the communication center, or whatever operation that we have. And if we continue, and we've done this in the past, where we're gonna have a zero increase budget. Everything else goes up, but we're gonna be zero increase. So we either lose employees, or we lose services, or we lose something, and I don't like that. I don't care for that at all.
I'm gonna wait.
Go ahead. You're
So
fine.
I completely understand and appreciate what you're saying. On the flip side of that, there was a person that just stood up here that was offering to cut expenses.
Sure.
Right? I mean, more or less. I mean,
Right.
I understand there's
It's
all kinds
it's-
of process.
It's one piece of the whole pie, yeah.
Right. So I've been involved in a lot of industries in a lot of ways. And you mentioned a perfect example. I will not go into great detail, but I'm one of those that did not receive services on more or less a routine basis from what I'm paying for. And that's a very sad thing to experience. So even though that occurred, I am still understanding of the entire system. But there's probably ways to cut a lot of expenses, and I think the first place that should take place, or the people in charge of it, are the ones that know the best. And that would be the people that were, I'm going to use words in my world, that were elected or appointed to do that job, right? So those people should know best about how to control costs within their purview. So that's what I would start with. You can hire outside consulting firms and all kinds of stuff to go in and say, well, you don't need this, you can cut that off, or you can get this cheaper, you can do this way. But at the end of the day, the people that work there are the ones that know the best. And that's where I would start with that. So,
Very good. Thank you, I appreciate that.
any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else on this subject? We're on the budget. Seeing none, any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I think this was intended to be a discussion and a kind of informal process. And I think then everyone has said what they need to. Any other comment from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the next agenda item. The next agenda item is discuss and consider approval of the trusted data agreement between Scotts Bluff County and Twin Cities Development for the purpose of purchase of Placer AI technology for 1 year. Charlie?
So we'll have we passed the motion to purchase the Placer AI technology, cost share it with a partner in town, and we need to have a contract between us and that partner to, say we're not going to auto-renew this, we're not going to, break any, the trusted user is not going to break the language of the contract that we sign with Placer. We will be the acting agent, and TCD will be the. It says here trusted data agreement. TCD will actually be the shared service partner. And that gives them all the same rights to the platform that we will have. So we need to have that in place before we sign the contract with Placer. So this is just a little cleanup from what we did 2 weeks ago, and so I guess I'll just make a motion to approve the shared service agreement between Scotts Bluff County and Twin Cities Development for the purpose of the purchase of Placer AI technology for 1 year.
Get a second, we can open up for discussion. I have some questions.
So we have a motion. Is there a second? Let me see if we get a second first of all, and then we'll decide to go to discussion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I should mention that, as Charlie said, this has been discussed previously and given at least what I would call tentative approval, with the understanding that this would be reviewed by our attorneys and looked at, and that's all been done, right, Charlie?
Yes.
Right. And so then this is the final product that basically we're kind of waiting for. So I will open it up for discussion. Do you want to say something
Yeah,
first,
I
Ken?
do have a comment. I was at the department head meeting this week, I think this week. I don't remember, this week or last week.
Must have been
Whenever-
last week. Today's
when-
Monday.
Whenever it was, had to be last week. And it was brought up, and all of you know how good I am with all of this stuff, especially when it comes to computers. But it was brought to our attention that we have a program, or access to a program that is similar to this, for around $4,000, if I understood it right. I don't know whether it works the same or whether it does the same thing, but I think it's something that we need to either look into or find out more about. I'm not the one to answer your questions, so a lot of people a lot smarter than me are doing it. In fact, most of them are smarter than me. Anyway, I would like to know more about that program. I think it's through the assessor's office, but I don't know that for 100%. You're smiling back there. Do you have an answer for that? Okay. So is that similar to what we're talking about here?
Robert, you're gonna have to come up here. If we're making everybody else do it,
There
you
you
gotta
go.
come up here too.
There's not really much to say. I know that the question was asked to Amanda Strong, who manages the mapping area, about the feasibility of using that system and what functionality it has. I don't know the answer to that tonight, but I just know it has been asked just in the last week. So probably good to look into it.
Okay, thanks. So I would only comment that I seen some emails going back and forth concerning this item. And then some of the last emails had to do with whether or not it was providing the information we needed. But with that being said, I'm fine with going to comments from the audience, and then we'll go from there.
Amanda's sitting here, Mark. Maybe she has something else to
Yeah.
add to that.
Yeah, come on up. Your information might be helpful to these folks before they speak. So we should say that Robert is our county assessor, and the mapping department is under his supervision. Amanda is the supervisor of the mapping department, and we pay for a service in the mapping department, and I was understanding that it might have some way of possibly helping in lieu of this, but go ahead, Amanda, with what you've got.
So in the mapping department, we have a program called Business Admin, and essentially what it does is it helps a lot of different companies decide where they want to place product, or new stores, new vendors, whatever the case may be. It has a lot of the same functionality that I saw with Placer AI. I know that the concern was that it didn't have the foot traffic tracking
Feature.
That's something I don't know if that has that capability or not. We have a demo set up for Friday to talk to Esri to see if maybe it does have that functionality. I'm just not aware of it. We've never used it in-house. We've never had a reason to, really. So it's something that I'd like to look at, but the demo's not set up till Friday, so we don't know for sure.
This is something similar to what we're talking about here for the 30,000. Maybe not as fancy, maybe not as quite as many things that are going to happen with. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. So from my understanding, it doesn't have, or might not have, the capability of tracking the cell phone data as far as like when everybody's at an event, where they go. It might. I don't know that for a fact. That's kind of why we want to talk talk to the Esri rep on Friday to see what they tell us. But it does have capability to look at other demographics and things like that. And I know that Esri is pretty good at being able to add a lot of data into their apps. So I've set it up for Friday. We'll see what they say.
Well, the foot traffic's one of the key things that we want to look at.
Exactly.
And it's very important not only for tourism and business, but it's also a public safety issue. And if we have that foot traffic data, it makes it much easier for law enforcement, EMS, and fire, and emergency management to help plan for major events in the community like they
Right.
are now. But without that data, then it's pretty useless to us.
Right. So that's what we're going to find out on Friday, is if they can accommodate that or not.
Thank you.
Have you got a committee together, or Charlie, you gonna be there on this to look at this thing?
Yeah, we can certainly look at it on Friday.
This won't go into
Based-
effect till next budget anyway, will it? This comes out of next year's budget?
Oh, no, it would be purchased next month.
Oh, I thought that was out of next year's budget. Where's the money coming from?
Tourism.
Okay, then, yeah, because our budget wouldn't warrant it.
And just a side note, the same app that we're talking about, there's a standard and an advanced version. The standard version will become available to us as just part of our package in July. So even if you do decide to go with Placer.ai in the long run, the standard version of what we're talking about will still be an option for anybody else in the county who might want to use it. So that's just
Price-wise, what's the next step up, the one that you were just talking about?
Advanced currently, I believe, was the $4,000, but a standard version would just be included in our current licensing as of June or July.
So we would have a piece of what we want to do for nothing, and then an additional 4,000 for the advanced.
And the additional might change once they include the standard in our actual
Okay.
licensing, but they haven't released that information yet. I don't know what it would cost. The rep might know on Friday, so we'll find out. But yeah, no, it's just an option.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I called Amanda, was it Thursday last week, and we
Yeah,
talked
Thursday or
about
Friday.
setting up the demo. And we hoped that we could get it done, have the demo done before tonight, but last minute notice. But one of the features of the ARC is that it really would take a GIS professional to run the product and get the data. The Placer.ai is anybody who can operate a smartphone or Microsoft Word could run the reports out of Placer.ai, and that's with the cost share that we're working with TCD on. They'll have their people, we'll have our people. We really need we don't need to be relying on GIS folks for the type of data we need that we're searching for. We need to have that nimble ability to move within the system and generate reports on the fly. The foot traffic is the main component of Placer.ai that we're looking for, and the ARC does not have that feature. We've seen multiple presentations on this. We know what the product that we're getting. This is appears from here. It looks like this ARC business ARC is not a viable option, but I'm willing to look at it.
So the place where maybe I missed the meeting, that went through the tourism group and they approved all that?
Yeah, you were there.
We're gonna, do you have any more?
No, if anybody else would like to be included on the demo, though, just let me know.
Sure. So I'm gonna let Lana speak first, just because you've already had one turn, but we're gonna let you come up for this as well.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to go.
Okay, go ahead.
Lana Hubbard, and I am a member of the Tourism Board. Mine is more clarification. The contract that we do have currently does not state anything about TCD. Is that going to be Is there an additional one that I've not seen?
Yes,
And this is a 1 year.
yes.
So when will we see as the advisory board? Because I did look back at the January minutes, and we did not make a motion at that time, and that was a 3-year contract
Right.
with TCD
With Placer AI.
on
Yes,
the Placer
yes,
AI.
Yes.
So that contract is where? Because this is the one that came through,
So
the 1 year.
TCD asked for a 1-year contract, and this board took action on a 1-year contract 2 weeks ago.
So the 30,000 is a 1 year between TCD and us.
Yes,
So 15 and 15.
yes.
Okay, and that contract will come through then? Brenda, am I,
Is that the
this,
service agreement you have here?
is
what
that,
you're talking
because like even the back, it's just Placer and then I assume customer will be county? I mean, will this be a 3?
We have copies and TCD's listed down here.
Okay,
And TCD's listed on the second page as well.
okay, because that is something we,
Don't.
Chair, have you seen? I don't know, maybe Melissa has seen it. I know Chuck, he's the one that had to step out because he had to be at another meeting that did want to leave this with me.
This came to us in our packet, but TCD is listed on.
Okay, because that was something that was just something we weren't aware of.
You got
We
an
didn't have-
earlier
We didn't
copy.
have an
Right.
updated
So the tourism committee voted to do a 3-year contract.
with the stipulations that TCD, that
Right.
we weren't going to be the only.
Right. And now it's just a 1-year contract.
So, but,
And TCD's
correct.
part of the half of
So I
that,
guess
yeah.
I'm trying to, with March kind of being at its, we had a little bit of a dysfunction this last month. So I guess I'm just trying to remember, if we voted, so did in
You did not,
February?
you did not vote on a 1-year contract. You voted on you
Three.
approved a 3-year contract.
3-year, correct.
Yeah.
So do we need to amend that? Is that, because that's,
Not
Not-
necessarily, because it's the county going into a contract with Placer, not the tourism committee going into a contract with Placer.
but yeah, it is tourism dollars. So I guess I'm just saying, as the advisory board, we probably should know where we need to stand on this.
Well, we're gonna have, you'll have opportunity to hear about it in April, because.
So we'll have
we're
our
going-
meeting
we're
on
going-
April
We're,
9th. And,
yeah, because we're gonna watch the demo from Business Arc, and we're going to, so we're not signing this contract tonight.
okay, I guess that's what, I just feel that we need to, as an advisory board, set and really know what we're representing or what it's representing for us too. So I'm just saying this wasn't the original contract.
No, it's a 1-year contract, not a 3-year contract.
Okay, but we did
You did approve a 3-year
approve a
contract.
3-year. Okay. And TCD is going to participate.
Yes.
So, okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So let me get some clarification, Charlie, then, with what Amanda had said and what I thought I heard you just say was that, were you saying that you're willing to wait until we see the demonstration on Friday? Is that what I was hearing you just say?
To be honest, I don't think we need to wait.
I thought that's what you just told me.
I'm willing to wait.
Okay.
I don't think we need to wait. I'm willing to wait. It's a, if Business Art can show us the foot traffic, then that would be great, and it would be a tremendous cost saving. So from my research, based on the demonstrations that I've been a part of, I'm confident that Placer AI is the product we need to go with. But to calm everyone else's concerns, I'm willing to do that ARC demo. Business analyst. Yeah.
Well, I think it'd be wise and prudent to wait and make that decision after we get to review the other product.
Well, if that's what I'm hearing and we're willing to do that, and I'm hearing that from both the person that made the motion and the second, then we'll see how that goes. Sir, would you still like to speak on this issue?
Quickly.
All right, do it quickly. Come on up.
Mitch Wagers again. Thanks for letting me talk. There were a couple things concerning that I heard about reporting and things like that, terminology that might be a trigger. It's not something that should be discussed, I think, in particular here because it's very intricate details. But my bigger concern is that a legal agreement, the trusted data agreement? Is that a legal agreement?
Yeah, it's actually going to be called a shared service agreement, not a trusted data.
So is that a legal agreement, legally binding?
Yes, yes.
Is that something on their website, Twin Cities Development, right? Twin Cities Development, is that the one?
Right.
Is that something that's shared on their website about it being a legal agreement?
You basically have two agreements here, don't you? You have one with TCD, and then you have one with Placer.
I don't think TCD needs to put on the website who they're in contract with for a service like this. I guess I don't understand the question.
So my concern is there has to be private information shared about where people are walking to, right? If you're talking about foot traffic.
So this data is completely anonymized. We're not. There's no identifiable characteristics to the data that we're looking at.
We don't know that it's you. We don't know that it's somebody else in this room. We only know there's 400 people that were here, and now they're moving in this direction.
Is there a way that can be demonstrated, that it's not tied to somebody?
Well, through Placer. I mean, TCD's not going to provide us that.
Right.
We're not going to provide that, but
Right.
through Placer, they're the only ones.
I speak as a person that's had a very long IT career in those particular industries, so I'm just asking for clarification. If there's some way to get that clarified, it'd be great.
That's the way it was presented to us.
Yep. So
This is
we've-
anonymous, and there's no names or phone numbers attached to this.
We were
It's
hoping to
only-
get phone numbers in case, something would happen at an event that we could give it to the sheriff's department. So
Right.
they do not provide that.
Right.
So-
Okay.
Okay?
Interesting. Thank you.
So
Kim,
just-
go ahead.
Well, I'll just mention that, there have been at least 3 presentations on this product. One to the tourism committee, one to the commissioners, one to TCD. TCD has actually seen it a couple times, or at least their executive director has seen it more than once. I've seen it more than once. And just to comment on the tourism piece of this, is that tourism cannot enter into an agreement with Placer AI. And so therefore, they made a recommendation to the commissioners to purchase the product. So that's, whether we go back to, the tourism committee to get their recommendation for a second time, I really don't know that. I guess what we'll see is, we've got to see this other product first, and then we'll go from there. The concern is, we go past the March 31st deadline, and Placer pulls their pricing offer. We worked pretty hard to get their price down to this dollar amount. There's a lot of negotiation going on with that, based on a March 31st deadline. But to be prudent, we do need to see that other product. So.
Hang on just a second, because I'm trying to recognize Kim. She had her hand up first. You got to come up. Yeah.
Wasn't going to come up tonight. Kim Johns. Just a quick question. So we're sharing the costs the first year with Twin City Development. They've committed to 1 year, but we're committing to 3.
No 3 year, 1 year
It's
only.
chained to one.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that the proposal for the county tourism was for 3 years.
We first approved a 3-year, and then TCD said they would not like to do a 3-year.
Okay.
And so then we approved a 1-year.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to clarify, that we weren't tying into then us picking up the cost for the other two.
No.
Very good, thank you.
Good question.
Lana?
Real quick, just to clarify, because I can't remember, is this an Apple only? Does it pick up Android? There is we use State Fair, we have had Placer ID, and I know we haven't been pleased with it, the staff hasn't, for the fact it's not been very accurate. I guess that was gonna be my question, was I couldn't remember if it's an Apple only, or if it's picking up the Android and all that, and I thought maybe you might remember.
So from what I remember, is that it is not a device-specific product, and it actually extrapolates the data based on the number of devices it picks up there. That's how it comes to its to get its data, and they claim that there's they're within a 3% margin of error with the data that they provide. And the most important piece of this is not obviously the numbers and how many people are at a location is going to be very important to us, but it's the foot traffic patterns that is the most important to us. So again, we've been through all this, through all the in the weeds stuff multiple times, with Placer presenting to us where all those questions had an opportunity to be asked.
Correct, I just didn't remember, because I did feel that I thought there was comment, something about it picking up a specific, like an Apple and not a Droid, or vice versa.
My AI search says it is exclusive to Apple.
Okay, I felt that, and that's why I just wanted to.
So
clarify.
if it's exclusive to Apple, we can say Apple has 50% of the market share on cell phones, and then they use that, they can extrapolate the data with very tight boundaries to come up with the data that they're providing. So it's very, and when they talk about a 3% margin of error, that's really, better than industry standards when it comes to data tracking and cell phone and foot patterns and that sort of stuff.
Okay, so I think what I'm understanding is that we have a motion and a second on the floor, Jason. It appears that we may want to rescind those. Is that the way we can do that? Are we able to simply rescind those, or what's the process that we would need to use, or just simply vote it down?
Well, I don't think, was it ever actually voted on?
No.
It's not voted on. We have a motion and a
Discussion
second.
portion of the motion and second.
Right.
So I would say that there could be a motion. Are you looking at just moving it to April 7th at this point?
Yes.
So I would say you would want to have a motion.
We have to take action on the motion
What
that's
about
on
the
the
motion
table.
that's
What
on
about the
floor?
motion and second we have, is the
Right.
question.
So you could rescind that.
Are you willing to rescind
I'll
your second?
rescind my second.
Shirley?
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay, so that part's rescinded, and then we should move to probably table this item to our next meeting, which is
1 week.
1 week from today. Yeah, is that the 7th?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Be the 8th.
okay. So, do we have a motion to table this item to our next meeting, which is April 7th?
8th, isn't
I don't think so.
It's the
I'm trying to
7th.
find it.
April 7th.
7th.
April 7th
it?
is the
Isn't today
date.
the 1st?
Well, I move that we table this item until our next meeting, April 7th.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second to table it till our next meeting, which is the 7th of April.
Can you take a break?
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
You have a hand up over there.
I just had a couple questions before you decide to push it on. My
Hang on before, just come right all the way on up, and then you can start talking.
My name's Robin Kenny, I'm from Gary. My first question would be, he says that there's been multiple presentations and
Right.
multiple information that has been out there. But this last meeting on the 17th, on the agenda, it was discuss and consider PACER, AI contact agreement. Okay, PACER is a completely different system. I understand this is likely a typo, but if you go back to your open meetings rules, each agenda item shall be sufficiently descriptive to give the public a reasonable notice of the matters to be considered at the meeting. This is not very specific. It doesn't say a whole lot of anything. If you go down to the discuss and consider resolution approving a 5-year contract with Route Match Software LLC for scheduling and dispatch software for Tri-City Roadrunner, and authorize the public transit manager to sign said contract by direction of the board commissioners, that's a whole lot more information than discuss and consider PACER AI contract agreement.
Well, I'll only say this, and Jason can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've simply are moving to table this item. So if it needs to be more explicit on the one for the next meeting, we'll do that, but
Okay,
that's the
well, I think it
simple
should be
story.
more specific for the one on the next meeting. I did a little digging and searching with this Placer AI. I searched City of Gearing, City of Scotts Bluff, Baird, and Bridgeport, and they returned 4 business results for 3 of the, and just one in Baird. So the information that they are putting out there just for anybody to look at on their, check it out, see who we are, this is what you're gonna get, 4 businesses, nothing else.
Okay.
And I don't know that this is probably, I don't know, maybe we do need to table it, maybe they need to maybe look into a few other products besides this Placer AI. I Googled and I came up with 5 other different products that cost a heck of a lot less than, you know, the $30,000 that the county's gonna be laying out.
And they do the same thing?
And they do roughly the same thing.
Okay.
I didn't dig any deeper other than this is our product, we track analytics, we track foot traffic, this is the cost.
I understand what you're saying. To me,
Mhm.
that process, we needed to talk about that at those last 3 meetings.
And I don't think it was.
Yeah.
And I don't think that what was put in the agenda was specific enough for anybody to come up and say, you know, maybe we ought to look at this a little differently, maybe we ought to expand.
And maybe so, and maybe again, in light of recent happenings, maybe things have been looked at and scrutinized closer. I
Okay.
understand that.
But-
But at this point in time, it's tabled, right?
And then I have
we voted
another-
on that yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
You're still on.
That's the
I just- and-
motion and the second, is to table it.
Okay, that's
I think.
fine. But I would also like to know, before you guys go, after you table it and you bring this back next week, I want to know
Right.
what system that Twin City Development is currently using and what is wrong with it and what makes this particular system so much better.
I don't think they're using any, but they might be, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's something that the voters should, you know, hear about. It's my tax dollars. And after the little tantrum, we had about $6,000 for a office space, and now you want
Okay.
to lay out 30?
If you've got
That was my point.
something productive to say it.
That was my point, and it was
All right,
perfect.
thank you. All right, do we have a motion to
We have a
table?
motion. I've opened it up for voting. I'm waiting for 2 commissioners.
so-
Motion and a second on it.
Okay, so yeah, seeing no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
This is the table.
This is the table. Right. A vote to table.
You have 5 yeses.
Okay, so the motion's carried. Jason, can you be sure that you feel that the information in the agenda on this item is exactly as you think it ought to be for next week?
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so I've been asked, we're gonna go to the next item next, which is public comments, but I've been asked if we could take a break. So we're taking that now, and I always say 8 minutes. So to me, that will be 7 minutes after 6.
Watch, there's gonna be a line.
And you want people to sign up?
I have if you speak, I have a sign-in sheet.
Right. But you really don't have to do it until you speak. We're gonna have it right up here by the podium. meeting will come back to order. It is 6:07. I want to be sure that we try and stay on schedule the best we can. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. The Board of Commissioners will receive public comments on items discussed at this meeting or suggestions for items of discussion at a future board meeting. The board will not take action on comments that are presented today. So there is no action on any of these items. We're simply here to hear what you have to say. Let me say one other thing. I've been asked two different ways. I've been asked to be sure and remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. That's why we're asking you to come forward. Hopefully, most of you were here at the beginning of the meeting when I mentioned it. But we're asking you to come forward and speak at the microphone. Try and come all the way to the microphone before you start speaking. That would be helpful. And we also are going to have a sign-up sheet. Do we have it right here at the podium, Miss Kelly? All right. And so we're asking you not only to give us your name verbally, but we're asking for you to put it, sign in, so that print it so that Kelly will have your correct spelling for her records as she does the minutes. So we asked that, and I was also asked for the commissioners to be sure that if we speak on anything, that we speak into our microphones, because some people said they couldn't hear what the commissioners were saying. So I would remind both sides of the aisle, so to speak.
Lean forward to your microphone.
So be sure we try and do that. One of the things that we want to be sure and do as we start this, our sheriff, part of the public, wanted to mention an item, and so I'm going to ask him to come back and present his item. And then we're going to talk about what I perceive to be the biggest item that's probably going to be talked about, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead, Sheriff.
Okay, Mark Overman, Sheriff. So I wanted to address you guys because I don't get to talk to you all together except for here. And there have been two things that have been in the news a lot that happened at the Scotts Bluff County Detention Center recently. And so one of those things that happened was one of our detainees died. And we were holding him on a courtesy hold for Box Butte County in Alliance. And that's something that we routinely do. And it's not just with Box Butte County. We trade inmates for various reasons. So that man was being held. And what I can tell you is that he suffered a medical, what looks to us like a medical emergency. It is all on video. And it happened at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'd say he was stricken. And the guy that was with him, he had a cellmate with him. And his cellmate recognized this and started trying to help him. And so our staff was on this very quickly, and we had a lot of staff people go there, and we have an AED there, and we have other things there, and staff is trained to use those things, and they started using those things immediately. They called for medical right away, and so Regional West Ambulance responded during fire department responded with their rescue unit, and that man was transported to the hospital where he passed away. So when someone passes away like that, anybody that's in custody that passes away, it triggers a grand jury investigation, and that's the Nebraska law. And so because the Sheriff's Department oversees the jail, our investigators responded immediately to do just the immediate things we had to do at the jail or at the hospital to maintain custody and things like that. And the next morning, I talked to the county attorney, which I always do. I notified Chairman Harris of what had happened, and county attorney and I both said yes. Ask the state patrol to do that investigation. That's where we're at.
What time of day did that happen, Mark?
He was stricken at 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning, okay.
And he was pronounced deceased. Hit the hospital a little after 3. Was pronounced deceased a little after 4.
Thank you.
So that's what I can tell you about that. If there's any foul play, we don't know about it at this time. And so that, it's under investigation, and we are full cooperation, as we always are. This is not the first time it's happened. We've had other people die in our custody.
Who's investigating, Mark?
State Patrol.
State Patrol, okay.
Yeah. So State Patrol's investigating. They've got our full cooperation. Anybody they need to talk to, I know we've already delivered them a bunch of video, all the reports they've asked for, and they will have our full cooperation. So, you have any questions about that incident? Okay, second incident that happened that generated a lot of news around here was a detainee that we were also holding for Box Butte, was released from our facility, and about as soon as he got released, I started getting calls, first from Box Butte saying, this guy wasn't supposed to be released. And so, of course, when we hear that, now we start checking into things. And so, what we found out was I spent, from the time I heard about it, which was on one evening until the evening of the next day, we were running down all of our people that had anything to do with this. And in the meantime, I also called the Box Butte County Sheriff. That's how we found out about it. He and I are old friends from way back. We were both on the Wing Task Force at the same time. We've both been at this for a long time, and we have excellent working relationship together. And when he called me, he wasn't angry. You know, he thought it was a mistake, and so I said, okay, I'll check and see what we've got, because what I could see right away, I can see our records. What I could see right away was one charge, and that the guy was supposed to be released on a certain date. And what I found out was that we did everything that we were supposed to do. The charge that they told us about, we even checked with the county court in Box Butte County to make sure that we were computing his departure date the same way they were, and they confirmed that he needs to be released on this date at this time. And so we came up with the same thing, and that was the only thing that we had. By the next evening, I talked to the sheriff up there, and I had looked at everything we got. We had interviewed all of our people that were involved in this, and everybody said, that's all we have. And the next evening, the sheriff said, we dropped the ball. We did not tell you about the other charge. And without us being told about the other charge, we have no way of knowing. When we pick somebody up, you have to tell us what the charges are. So we properly released him on the charge we had, and they didn't tell us about the other charge, and that's how he got released. And the sheriff told me that. He says, that's on us. We made a mistake. Our people made a mistake by not telling you, and I will tell anybody that that's the answer. And by the next evening, within an hour or two after I talked to him, they had put out a notice on their Facebook page that said exactly that. It was really long, but towards the top it said exactly that. It's not on us, it was on them. So it's an unfortunate thing that it happened. And of course, we don't want it to happen, but it happens to jails all the time where somebody makes a mistake. And so we figured out it wasn't us, and he said it was them. So now we're all trying to find this guy because he's considered dangerous. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Well, as many people as we deal with that are retained and released, we're lucky it hasn't.
Yeah.
We've done. I think we've done a commendable job.
Yeah, and we've
so.
done. You know, and we've got processes in place to try and stop that from happening. Like, you know, one of the processes we've got is before anybody gets released, we're going to call our communications center and query them through NCIC and make sure there's not a warrant for him. There was no warrant for this guy, but there didn't need to be a warrant for him because he was already in jail under a bond. And if he's in jail under a bond, then there's no outstanding warrant. Because if there's an understanding warrant, we're required to serve it. And then he stays in jail. So that's what happened. That's how it happened.
Still haven't found him.
Last I knew, haven't found him. I mean, there's you know, I'd just say the police are hunting hard for him.
Sure.
He hasn't called and said you made a mistake or anything like that.
So, let me,
No, you know, and when they let him go, he didn't say a word about it. Russ, I can't.
You know, it's amazing how that works.
when he is located,
Yeah.
will he be in our facility or Box Butte County?
That'll be, I don't know. That'll be a decision of Box Butte County. If they want us to hold him, we'll hold him.
Okay.
You know, we do that for other entities. You know, I mean, we're kind of a regional facility. We're the biggest facility, so we hold a bunch of federal prisoners, and we are always holding for a number of other people in the Panhandle and even beyond the Panhandle.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. So we'll continue with public comments. And of course, I'm fully aware that a lot of people are here this evening, I believe, on the tourism issue. And Brenda, the comments and thoughts that were presented about Brenda at the last meeting. Obviously, this meeting, the items had been pulled from the agenda concerning the tourism, but I know some of you have wanted to comment. And I might ask tonight on this item, tourism and Brenda's position, I might ask if I could a show of hands of, first of all, I'm going to ask who's here on this item. If you could raise your hand. All right. And who intends to speak on this item? If I could see people. Okay. So I appreciate that. What's that?
About 5 or 6.
Yeah, not as many as I thought, and it doesn't mean just because you didn't raise your hand that you're not going to be able to speak. But if we simply have, I was concerned we might have 20 people, and if we were going to have 20, then I was concerned we were going to need to limit those conversations to about 3 minutes or so. But if we only have 6, we can certainly go into the 5-minute range or 6-minute range, and we're not going to have a problem with that. So I just want you to be aware of that. Keep in mind, as I always tell people, we don't allow any cursing or swearing, and also be cognizant of this isn't the time for major or serious personal attacks to the extent that we can keep it that way. So I just want you to be aware of that. So again, be sure you come to the microphone, say your name, print your name for the record so Kelly can get that, and then we can go ahead and speak. So who would like to be first? Come on up, Gene.
Jean Bauer, and I am the Register of Deeds for Scotts Bluff County. Just in case you can't spell it, Kelly.
I was afraid I wouldn't be able to keep up with everybody, so.
So I'm going to start tonight by prefacing my comments that I've witnessed and apparently have been a part of some forms and some documentation through Scotts Bluff County that I was not even aware of. So that's why I'm here tonight. So regarding, I got a couple of different things, 4 I think. Regarding the request for a new liaison, Brenda sought the advice of Heather Hoschild and myself about how to deal with her challenging relationship with Mr. Knapper. We talked about it, Heather and I. We suggested that maybe Commissioner Blue might be someone to reach out to. I set up the meeting in my office between Brenda and Mike Blue. I had Mike Blue come in a half hour before, and I said, I suggested a new liaison, and I said, if you change the liaison and the problems persist, we have to look at Brenda. If you change the liaison and the problems go away, then we have to look at Commissioner Knapper. Mike agreed. We had a meeting, approximately 2.5 hours, of which I hardly said anything at all. At the end of the meeting, Commissioner Blue and Brenda discussed Commissioner Blue's request for her to make a written request to you all for change in a new liaison. They talked about, Commissioner Blue and Brenda, about what should be contained in that letter, went back and forth. He told her to run it by the tourism board, kind of get the buy-in of the tourism board. She said she wasn't going to run it by Melissa Price, as because Melissa was brand new on the board. She'd only been to one meeting, didn't they feel it was fair to her, to Melissa Price. And so that's what Brenda did. I was told later that Mr. Blue denied that that was even what he said. I didn't hear that secondhand. I was in the room, and it most certainly was said and requested of Brenda. As to the orientation of new board members, Mr. Knapper said that he wanted Brenda to give him the materials so he could see what they were. Well, you've been on the tourism board for 6 years, I think, since you've been a commissioner. And now all of a sudden we're just requesting these. Why didn't we request these earlier?
Can I answer your question?
Sure, as long as it's not cutting into my time.
You know, I would only say, and Jason kind of cautioned me of this early on, and really the intent of this is public comments, and that we're here to listen to what the public has to say within reason, and beyond that, it's really not we're not going to make a decision on anything, and to have extended conversation back and forth is not what this is intended for. Is that what you were describing to me, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. So I would only say that.
So continue.
Because this will go from a 30-minute to possibly 40-minute discussion into a 2-hour and 3-hour
And we
if
don't
it
want
starts to become a give and take.
Right.
And we're not, and I'll certainly suggest that some are possibly agreeing with what you're saying, some are possibly not in the audience and up here.
Agreed.
And you can say whatever thoughts you have to say, and yeah, now I'll give you an extra 30 minutes. I mean, 30 seconds, I'll write that down there.
So, continuing on the reviews and evaluations, I had heard that Commissioner Knapper was going to do what was called a 360 review on Brenda. I sent an email to Lisa. One of the questions in the email said, "Are we not following the policies of the Personnel Board?" I'm the chair of the Personnel Board. We're holding everybody else, and those evaluations and how they're done and the form used is prescribed in the personnel manual. So for him to review her in that manner versus other officials that he may supervise deviates and does not allow for equalization among reviews and fairness to the employees. And I have a problem with that. As to the website, we are thankful that MIPS allowed us to do our did our website for us. Was training provided to the officials? No formal training. It was, you go out, you call this person at MIPS, make arrangements. In any new implementation of anything requires that we reevaluate at the end of the time to determine, did we do it right? Did we do it wrong? What can we do better? We should have done several things better. Some of the offices had no problems. Other offices struggled. Some still don't have anything done. Specifically, Brenda reached out to me, and I hooked her up with the person in my office who helped me with ours. And Caitlin did everything she could for Brenda, got everything uploaded, but Caitlin also took a vacation in the middle of this. And why this is important is there was a write-up that was done of Brenda. And my name is on it. And actually, Melissa Price's name is on it. And it sets out that in the write-up that Brenda engaged with John Ernie, Lisa Ryan, and me within the past week. That write-up sets out what John Ernie and Lisa Ryan said when they were contacted by Commissioner Knapper, but Commissioner Knapper never contacted me. And I'm guessing because what I had to say would not fit his narrative. The write-up gives me credit for the first and second warnings to Brenda on the subject of not having information on the website. I don't supervise Brenda. I don't have authority over Brenda. And to have my name on that write-up is just beyond comprehension. Additionally, Melissa Price, her name is on there for the third write-up on that very same item. Melissa Price works for Scotts Bluff Public Schools. She doesn't have authority over anyone in Scotts Bluff County to write them up. I don't know what's going on, but when you put my name on a write-up, that is disturbing, fraudulent, possibly illegal. I don't really know. But I demand that my name be taken off of there. Melissa Price's name should be removed from there. She has no authority whatsoever. And I don't know how we got to this, that you're doing that. I don't know if you put my name on it. I don't know if Lisa put my name on it. I heard in the newspaper, well, I read in the newspaper, that you were absolving all of the responsibility for those write-ups to Lisa. That's what it said in the Star Herald.
We got 1 minute.
That just because as Brenda's supervisor, you are the one in charge. And we rely on HR to give us advice. But that does not absolve you of any responsibility for learning and knowing HR. If you supervise people, you have to know that. Opportunities are provided free of charge all through the year. Because of what's gone on, I think there needs to be a redefining of liaison. You commissioners hire your elected or appointed officials, let them do their jobs. A liaison acts as a go-between, not a boss in the office day-to-day directing activities. Just because of everything that's happened, that my name is on there, I have it. So I know it's there. I think you should resign. I think Lisa should be reprimanded because she deserves some responsibility in this as well. And I would call for that. And if I don't know Melissa Price at all, but if she participated knowingly in that, she should be removed from the tourism board as well. Because that's wrong on so many levels.
All right. Who was going to be next?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Your name again.
My name is Lisa Betts Marquez. I am the owner of Peaceful Prairie Campsites, and as such, I am a tourism stakeholder, contributing lodging tax dollars to support county tourism. I am here tonight to express profound concern not only regarding the unprofessional behavior and abuse of power exhibited by Tourism Liaison Commissioner Charlie Knapper, but also the detrimental shift in tourism policy he is aggressively pursuing. Commissioner Knapper continues to pursue a pivot in our county's tourism strategy, shifting away from the proven success of leisure tourism, which supports vital heritage-based and cultural assets such as the Riverside Discovery Center, Midwest Theater, West Nebraska Arts Center, the Beat Creative District, and Legacy of the Plains Museum. These institutions are critical to our community's appeal and economic diversity. Instead, he seeks to prioritize tournament-based sports tourism. This abrupt shift jeopardizes the health of our established cultural assets and threatens our community's cultural identity. I would call your attention to Mr. Knapper's statements about art, murals, sculpture, Arts in the Park from January 20th. Look it up. My concerns are not merely about policy direction, but about the manner in which it is being implemented. Commissioner Knapper's behavior has been inappropriate and reflects an abuse of power. When Tourism Director Brenda Lacey, advocating for the proven success of leisure tourism, expressed concerns about the viability of Commissioner Knapper's vision, she was suspended from her job. During the March 17th Commissioners' meeting, Commissioner Knapper made threatening and coercive statements, demanding Brenda rescind her request to have her employment situation discussed in the open, which is her right. He appeared to disregard the counsel of County Attorney Jason Ocean. Sorry for the mispronunciation. Furthermore, during the same meeting, the Legacy of the Plains Museum stated, Representative Susan Wiedemann stated, that the above move of the Tourism Visitor Center location from their facility would be a loss of $6,000, and that move, and this is a direct quote, kind of felt like a retaliation. These incidents raise serious questions about the integrity of our county's tourism leadership. Therefore, I urge the following. Immediately and permanently remove Charlie Knapper as tourism liaison at the April 7th meeting. Formally investigate whether Commissioner Knapper indeed retaliated against Brenda Lacey by suspending her, and investigate his retaliation against the Legacy of the Plains Museum after they expressed concerns about the change in focus to sports tourism. In Scotts Bluff County, if Scotts Bluff County staff are not safe from retaliation when they express legitimate concerns, it is inappropriate to retain Commissioner Knapper in his role. If Scotts Bluff County Tourism board members and partners are not safe from retaliation when they express their legitimate concerns, it is inappropriate to retain Commissioner Knapper in this role. Because these allegations have been made and are a matter of permanent record, it is clear that Commissioner Knapper has lost the respect and trust of local tourism partners and should be immediately and permanently removed from any official role within Scotts Bluff County Tourism. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Yeah, you were 1 minute short. That's perfect. All right, anyone else? Someone else that raised their hand?
Good evening, council members and community members. I want to do a little celebration first. I brought some visual aids. Nobody would be my Vanna White tonight. So I'm with the executive director of Old West Balloon Fest, and my marketing manager last year had a great idea of having people pin a map when they attended the event this year. And I just want to show you how many states, how many people attended Old West Balloon Fest this last year. 29 states were represented, the UK, Mexico, and Canada.
Ma'am, did you give your name?
I did, Colleen Johnson. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and you can write it there.
We are here tonight to discuss the continued employment of Brenda Lacey and her unwavering commitment to Scotts Bluff County tourism. Her recent suspension came at a critical time when strategic tourism planning and execution were essential. As a direct result of her absence, key events were canceled, leading to significant economic consequences. One such event was scheduled for April 22nd meeting with sports tourism representatives who planned to visit High Plains Hot Air Balloon Company for an introduction to hot air ballooning with the possibility of a flight. The cancellation of this meeting alone resulted in a $3,000 revenue loss for my company. But the financial impact extended far beyond us. Local lodging, entertainment, and restaurants also lost income. And more importantly, our community lost an invaluable opportunity to exposure. Western Nebraska, with all its natural beauty and rich history, missed out on a chance to be showcased as a premier tourist destination. The role of a tourism director, this is on your website. The official responsibility of the tourism director is clear. The tourism director is responsible for promoting and supporting tourism in Scotts Bluff County. The tourism director is also responsible for the development and implementation of programs to market Scotts Bluff County as an attractive destination for conventions and tourism trade. Brenda has not only met, but exceeded this responsibility. In fact, she is the reason my husband and I moved here. Without her outreach and support in bringing us to Old West Balloon Fest, we would not have chosen to make Scotts Bluff County our home. Without her dedication, the U.S. National Hot Air Ballooning Championships would not have come to our community, not once, but twice now. The impact of these championships speaks for itself. In 2022, Scotts Bluff County saw a $1.2 million increase in lodging and sales tax revenue. That is a direct result of Brenda's leadership and vision. Tourism is not an abstract concept. It is a well-documented economic driver, and we have the numbers to prove it. The definition of tourism is a commercial organization and operation of vacations and visits to places of interest. It is about attracting people from outside our area, ensuring they stay longer, and maximizing their economic impact. Sorry. I believe the issue at hand is a difference of vision. Some member of the council may believe that sports tourism is the future of Scotts Bluff County. I do not disagree that sports tourism can play a role, but we must be realistic about what types of sporting events will generate actual tourism dollars for our community. Sports tourism, what works and what doesn't. Sports tourism is defined as a form of travel where people travel to, participate in, or witness sporting events, encompassing both active participation in sports and attending the events like major championships or tournaments. The U.S. National Hot Air Ballooning Championships is a national sporting event that draws spectators and competitors from across the country. Similarly, the Gravel National Cycling events participants and visitors to explore our area and spend money in our community. But let's be honest, regional Little League softball tournaments do not bring spectators from across the country. If you attend one, you will see families bring their own food, attend only the games, and then return to their hotels. Once their team loses, they go home. They are not visiting our restaurants, attractions, or local businesses in any meaningful way. At the last meeting, a suggestion was made that moving the tourism office to save $6,000 could allow that money to be spent on paying umpires. But why would you spend that money when the games are already officiated by local high school students? Instead, why not use that money for a youth ballooning camp, which is a STEM-focused program that teaches children about the science and math behind hot air balloons. Last year alone, we provided free educational opportunities to over 400 children, and we will continue offering this program to benefit our community's youth. The bigger picture, sustainable and effective tourism. The goal of tourism in Scotts Bluff County is clear: increase visitor stays and maximize their spending within our community. We need to prioritize attracting visitors who will not only attend events, but will explore our attractions, stay in our hotels, dine in our restaurants, and invest in our local businesses. The economic impact of tourism is undeniable. In 2023, 189,829 visitors came to Scotts Bluff and Agate Fossil Beds National Monuments. These visitors spent $12,990,000 in communities near the parks.
1 minute, Colleen.
Yes.
Okay.
This spending supported 171 local jobs. The cumulative benefit to our local economy was $15,318,000. These are the results of effective tourism planning and leadership. These are the results of a strategic vision that understands what truly drives economic growth in our community. Brenda Licey has been instrumental in these successes. Suspending her at a time when tourism planning is critical is not just a personnel decision, it's a decision with real economic consequences for our entire community. We must recognize the value she brings and the impact of her leadership. Tonight, I asked you to consider what kind of future you want for Scotts Bluff County, a future that builds on proven successes or one that ignores the foundation that has already been laid. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, anyone else that had their hand up? Would like to speak?
I thought somebody over here had raised their hand.
Right. And I know during this process, many times, some of the stuff has already been said, and then some people don't feel they have to say it again, and I understand that. But if anyone else would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Ellie Wolf. I'm also a local business owner, and I am a pretty well-seasoned sports mom. I have sent a son off on a football scholarship to a college out in Iowa. And actually, my younger son's father, he was a D1 football athlete. He played, we won't talk about how many years ago it was because we're not getting into those numbers. But I myself am a travel sports mom. For multiple sports. We've done travel baseball, we've done travel basketball, we've done football, we've done it all. I've been through every one of those, the Pee Wee leagues at the YMCA, as many others in here have. So when it comes, and many of my other notes, they've already been expressed by other people, but we know. One thing I wanted to say is that while I understand the need for sports tourism, and it can be a really big thing, focusing only on that is detrimental to the athletes that we are trying to push out of here. So like, I know that my son, when he was in high school, they not only looked at football, they didn't just look at his size, they looked at what were his other activities, what are his, what other things go on, and focusing only on sports tourism eliminates money to things like they said, the zoo, the hot air balloon fest, opportunities for these athletes to be able to volunteer, to get these volunteer hours. Sports is not the only way to go to college. I can tell you my son was also a very gifted musician. He was in all 4 high school musicals, and I can tell you that every music scholarship that came his way was above and beyond anything that a sports scholarship could even come close to. So to be able, I want to see us invest not only in sports, but invest in music, invest in arts, invest all over, because our kids need these opportunities. We need the tourism here, sure. We need to give our kids the opportunities to be able to volunteer at these things. They need to be able to be given these opportunities to experience other things. What happens when sports goes away? Because not every athlete plays the rest of their life. They need to have something else. And after being at multiple, I think we've been going to travel basketball stuff since 2020. And honestly, we're not gonna get those type of tournaments here. People are not gonna, we're gonna have our own. We can have our own. There are so many other opportunities within that could be explored, and I really don't think that Mr. Knapper has explored any of that. It's just been completely focused on this one ideal. Well, yeah, I'm sure that, eventually. But there are so many other places that you could open this up to that have not even been looked at. So now when it comes to, as far as his conduct, I don't believe that he's been conducting himself in a manner befitting of an elected official. If I were to be coming to as a travel parent, if I'm looking at going for travel tournaments and setting up relationships, you build relationships with different hosts, I'd be rather concerned. We all saw how he really just came after Brenda. And according to what was said in the Star Herald, now he's gone after Lisa. So who's next?
I would only say I've let some of this go a little further than what I normally would. I don't mind you. I want you to be able to speak what you have to say, but we're just teeter-tottering on the issue of serious personal attacks.
The reason that I'm
who
saying,
you're talking about, and if you've got some facts, I think you ought to throw them out there. But other than that, I think we just got to be a little careful of where we're headed here.
So what I'm looking at is what was quoted by the Star Herald.
Okay, and that's all public information, and I understand
And
that.
what I'm trying to give you is an idea of what we as the public are feeling. I can't attest for anybody else, but I can attest to myself that this is not giving us, we're not getting a whole lot of confidence in what's going on. We need to, I think that more needs to be looked into as far as behaviors. So, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up.
Trying to be popular.
I see that.
Cover a lot of bases.
We haven't put a limit on how many times you can come.
I don't believe that. So again, my name is Mitch Wagers. I am a business owner in Scotts Bluff, but I do reside in Gearing with my wife. And thank you for the statements back to things other than sports. So I'm not a small individual. I had plenty of opportunity in high school to play football and many other sports, but I chose not to. I played in a lot of different things in the musician side of the world. And I can certainly say that in my school where I grew up, and this is not representative here, I understand that, but it is important, I think, that the school I went to in high school and middle school brought in at least twice as much money than the football program did. And we had an exceptional football program as well. That's not discounting sports, but it is to say that there are, as she said, there are many other things besides sports. And this area of the country is very rich in history of this country. among other things, but it's very rich in that history. It's important, I think, for children and schools and everybody else to experience those things. And most of that is not a sports-related field. So that said, while I would like a balance between sports and other things, I think the majority of the money right now is probably coming from non-sport related activities. So I do find it concerning to go away from that, I don't know, avenue of revenue that's been tried and true. I don't think the tourism department is defunct or bankrupt or any of the sort. I wouldn't think. If it is, please tell me. So I would continue to grow the things that work and not jump ship on things that could be a toss-up. Specific to the sports, they can do great things, and I know this is not going to be an Olympic Games location, but most of the places that the Olympic Games have been held at, you should do your research and find out that they are defunct because the Olympic Games are no longer there. So, however you want to look at that, that's what I know. I too call for Mr. Knapper's resignation. That's where I stand. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, anyone else?
I got somebody.
What's that?
Something's coming up here.
I wasn't gonna speak either. I'm Becca Gorsuch, and I actually manage the Hampton Inn. And, sorry, I can't do two things at once. I guess maybe I'm on the opposite side of many of these people about hotel revenue, because I know where the revenue comes from. I know a lot of people think that we're busy on the weekends and we have hotel rooms open during the week, and that's very far from the truth. So I am somewhat open to sports tourism. I think we have some really fabulous facilities around here. We have some really great events that come to Scotts Bluff County. If somebody needs to tell you about the Balloon Fest that's here, we have an issue because it's top notch. It brings a ton of people here. We need to keep supporting things like that, and we need to keep doing things that bring people like that in. But when the biggest revenue weekend in our whole year is the Little League tournament that's done from Scotts Bluff and Gearing, I can promise you sports tourism is a big deal. They bring their mom and their dad and grandma and grandpa, and I hate them as much as anybody. I'm a sports mom. We don't go everywhere, but they tear my hotel up, and I hate them. But we charge them a pretty penny to be there, and so I'll take them because I'm going to make money off of them. So I'm somewhat on the opposite end of this. I say that we need to continue to look at all of this, that there is stuff in sports tourism. We have a lot of great things going on here already, and we need to keep pushing for them to keep going. But there's a lot. There's a lot going on in sports tourism, whether it's the pioneers. I mean, I can't tell you how many people we have that stay across the river that come to watch the Pioneers, whether their grandson is playing for the opposite team or their grandson plays for the Pioneers. They come here to stay to watch that or whatever. WNCC brings kids in, and then we have all the hundreds of little kids. So I know that sports tourism brings lots of stuff. It's not the only thing by any means, but it's a lot, yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Carrie Olson. I am also a sports mom. Not totally, though. I have two boys. One of them is very involved in sports. The other is more arty and music driven, and he could give, two craps about sports. I also don't really give a F about sports. I just, in general, at least speaking, I'm not a big Husker fan. I'm not spending my time, doing those things. However, I do think there is a place for sports tourism. When we go out of town for sports tournaments, we spend a fair amount of money. We're going out to eat. We're spending money in the hotel rooms. We go to museums in other towns that we would never go to. We go up to Deadwood, and I'm not like, oh man, there's this really cool museum in Deadwood that I want to go to. No, we were in Deadwood for a tournament, and we had time to kill in between games, and we took the kids to do a museum. We're spending money up there. It is lucrative. I don't think anyone is trying to take away from what has already been happening in the community. Brenda has been a part of some great things. The balloon race stuff is awesome. I remember that from being a kid, and I was sad when it went away, and I'm so glad it came back, and it is profitable. The gravel race, the quick and dirty, that is profitable. I don't think anyone is trying to take away from those things. We are simply, the goal is to diversify. The goal is to bring more money into the county that can be shared. I think a lot of people are coming up here and they're getting upset because they think their piece of the pie is getting taken away, when in fact I believe Commissioner Knapper is trying to just help bake a bigger pie that everyone can have a piece of. And people want to talk about his character and ask for his resignation, and talk about his how he's conducted things. I agree he can be a little hot-headed, and there's maybe some things that he could have handled better. However, you know, he's been publicly scrutinized extremely severely over the last 2 weeks. And a lot of that is at the hands of Brenda's boyfriend and other people in the community who have it. I don't know. It's just gotten very ugly and very personal, and I don't understand why that has happened. And everyone wants to get mad at him for how he's conducted himself, but how about Miss Lacey and her camp and how they've conducted themselves online? I just think people are fighting where there really isn't a fight to be had. Like, no one is taking away the great things that have already happened in the community. We're going to keep building them up. And there's an opportunity here to build the community up further by engaging in sports tourism. So I kind of feel like everybody's just getting their panties in a twist when they don't need to be. So thank you.
Was there one other one back there? Yeah, that'd be fine if we could call it closing arguments.
Jim Schimmick. I sit back there listening. I'd come just to see what was going on. The biggest problem I see is Google Scotts Bluff County. What do you scroll down? What do you get? You get this whole argument, both sides. That isn't going to help anybody's tourism. As I have young kids at home, when I decide I'm going to go somewhere, I Google the town and I pull up the town and I look. Well, Google Scotts Bluff. What do we got? We got this argument. We need to do what it takes. I ain't saying you should step down. I'm not saying one way or another, but we need to make amends. Both sides. I'm not here to say he's right, they're right. There's money on every side to be made, but I really think we need to pull together as a community, make amends, maybe get on the same page, move forward, and get the money. Because, like I said, you want to track cell phones, Google a town, see what happens. And that's what people see. And while I'm scrolling through looking for a place, oh, they're having arguments. Will it make me decide to go there? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm just saying. Google's a bad thing on both ways. So we just need to come together, get this settled down, and figure out what it takes. And if that means apologizing to somebody or, on both sides, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't followed any of it in the news. I don't know. But with young kids around that like this community, everybody's here showing support for the county. We need to just step forward, put our big boy panties on, and move on and make this the great place that it is to live.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
So let me just comment on a couple things. I'm assuming we're done. with Jim officially declared it to be closing arguments, so if that's true. But I do want to mention a couple things, just because I'm the chairperson. I want to mention a couple things just some factual things that we need to be aware of. Someone talked about the position, Charlie's position being liaison. I think it's in the bylaws that it specifically talks about that position being the supervisor. And the way it's certainly set up is that one commissioner is the supervisor over, and we have that with many department heads, but the supervisor over the tourism director. Number two, I wanted to mention, because Jim mentioned it, but I don't do Facebook, and so I have not read one Facebook item on this subject, but I understand there's lots out there. Google maybe have lots of it, the same stuff on there as well, but I don't read that, and I somewhat do it intentionally. Because sometimes it's helpful, many times it's not. And so I choose not to do it. I would just say that, and what I've seen over the long term is that, again, this group is elected officials, and we have some other elected officials in our midst as far as the Register of Deeds and other people, but when we have elected officials, they have the ability to voice their opinion and to help cause certain things to move in certain directions. And so they get those opportunities because they've been elected by the people. And so I just want to remind us all of that. And it's been said many times here tonight, we don't want to lose any of the things that are already happening. There's many things that are happening positive, and I appreciate those. There's many things that some would disagree how positive they are on our community. Some of the tourism events are really high on the list as far as bringing in people. One of the best ways I've heard it described is that when we see events that put heads in beds, that's a highly effective event. That's a high return on the investment that we have in tourism dollars. And I would suggest that those people whose businesses like Becca and maybe some others that bring in the lodging tax money want to see, and that's heads in beds. And that's what's important. That's the primary importance to those people. Again, we do have elected officials that are appointed to supervise and certainly have an opportunity to give some direction. I want you to know that as temporarily, and this is, I'll stress temporarily, I have been appointed Brenda's supervisor. And you should know that. Many of you don't know that at this point, apparently, because it's been brought up. But on a temporary basis, I'm the one that is Brenda's supervisor. Again, I would only say that we already have several sporting events going on. I think you could call balloons a sporting event. We certainly have Monument Marathon. That's a sporting event. We certainly have, we had the bike, some of the bike races that are still going on, and some bike races that hopefully will get back. And I would only say that there's that, plus other team sports that I think can be brought in and be a part of putting heads in beds. And that's still one of the major goals for the tourism group. So I just want to say that as a big picture item. And certainly we, I think, have got the message that you have some concerns that we need to do it in a way that is helpful, in a way that we can cooperate, a way that Mr. Shimmick said that we can all get along. And I agree that we need to do that. I think that there's been some concern that there's been some attempt at that, and we haven't made a lot of progress. But I think that we can move that direction and be compatible with each other. And that certainly would be my goal, and I think it would be most of all of our goals for our community. And so I would only say that. If anyone else up here feels they need to comment, we can. I'd like to kind of leave it at that if we could. So with that, is there anything else?
I'd like to speak one more time. I'll be brief, I promise.
You got 2 minutes at the most.
I just want to clarify that I don't think people are necessarily against sports events, and no one's worried about pie, Miss Olson, but thank you for your comments. But I am speaking directly toward Mr. Napper's public statements about not wanting to see murals, not wanting to spend money on sculptures, not wanting to see arts in the park. Now, if he hadn't made those statements, perhaps I wouldn't feel the way I do.
Sure.
But I will also say that the majority of the people that have come and stayed at my camp during these tournaments, which have brought me money, and I appreciated them, they bring coolers of food, and they run straight back to their RV and sit in the air conditioning all day until it's time for the next game. And as soon as they're done with their game, they're out. So not everybody wants to go to the museum, and that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I understand what you're saying. Again, there's lots of different opinion on a whole lot of every single subject that we could bring up, every single event, how important we think it is. And I don't see that being what we need to get into specifically here tonight, but it is what that tourism board deals with. Every time they meet is what are the things that are most important. And I realize that we're not all going to think the same. But anyway, so I was almost ready to adjourn the meeting. Anything else? The meeting's adjourned.